All right, we'll call to order at 6:38. Start with attendance. Convoy. Kugler.
Here.
Rana.
Here.
Hughes. Electricon. Gopal.
He's here.
He's here. Bird.
Here.
Porcello.
Here.
Conrad.
Here.
Alverde. She'll be here. Johnny.
Here.
Matthew. How do you say your last name? Villanima? Alright, Villanima. I'm gonna work on that. Thank you. Azimi.
Here.
Bilal. Bayraktar.
Here.
Ali.
Here.
Balkaran. Beatty. Burr.
Here.
Carr.
Here.
Caruso.
Here.
Chow. Nato.
Here.
Gangavelli.
Here.
Goebel.
Here.
Julian. Harris. Kennedy.
Here.
Kundu.
Here.
Langer. Lanza.
Here.
Lavoy.
Here.
Lemoyne. Michael. Murray.
Here.
Nazir. Norris. Oje.
Here.
Parker. Puglisi. Romanev.
Here.
Siddiqui. Sponzo. Sullivan. Surwitz. Wang. All right, we will now move into public comment. First, we have Sean Bassington to come speak. Up here, over here, please.
Good when it works, right? Well, I'll ease up. I'll use plug and then set up. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm going to try to do this without an extra thing in my hand, but just feel free to interrupt me and I'll speak up. My name is Sean Basington. I'm Associate Director of Planning Architectural Engineering Services and also the University Landscape Architect here at UConn. I'm also a UConn alum. Never served on the Senate, but I graduated here in the 90s. Campus was very different than what it is today. There's been a lot of improvements in those almost 20 years. I've been asked to attend on behalf of a student affairs request. I gave a similar presentation to their leadership group about a month or so ago, and I've been giving these presentations over the past few months as a way to share information about what construction activity we have occurring on campus over the coming years. Those you guys probably know that the Next Gen Connecticut program, there was an article in the paper, in the student paper today. That program started in earnest over the past year. We got a lot of activity occurring over the next couple of years that I'm here to share with you tonight. This is not a presentation about the details of the finer details of any one project. I'm really here to tell you that there's information to share and to serve as a conduit to our individual project directors and project managers should you have any questions about those finer details. So this is kind of we like to say a 30,000 foot view of of what's going on campus.
I think that should work. Just, I would recommend not going into the slash mode because that's unfortunate.
Well, I'm not sure. Can we turn the lights down a little bit?
Oh, it's on the
It's a little stretch, but we'll muddle through. So just so I can get a flavor of the audience, how many first years are here tonight? Well, good. Second years? Third? Fourth? Should I go further? Fifth? Any fifth years technically serve on Saturday? Yep. Okay. So that's a pretty good cross section. Good group. So I'm going to take, probably maximum 30 minutes of your time to get through. I got about 15 slides to share with you. One of the first things we needed to do in offering this communication tool was to establish some parameters of what we would actually show in map form. As you can imagine, if we were to document every roofing project, sidewalk repair, things of that scale, the maps you're about to see would just be, they'd be uncomprehendable. They'd be just saturated in color. So we're using this word significant on our maps. And the way we define the word significant activity is really framed by the impact of any given construction site. Could be, I'll show you a matrix in one of the slides of what we consider. But it would be things like road closures, detours, pedestrian or vehicular detours, displacement of parking, things of that nature. So things that are going to impact the daily campus life for you as well as our faculty and staff. Then we started this in 2015, and we've already started to map projects we think will come online 2 years from now. So what you're going to see is what we have remaining this calendar year, and it moves into next year and the year that follows. I'm going to show you how we use this information to have other conversations to try to coordinate and set expectations with our construction sites as they relate to key events. We had the groundbreaking for the Innovation Partnership Building on the new road out to 44 today. I'm sure many of you attended, but that's the type of event that we try to coordinate with our construction activity. And then always important in any line of work is how we communicate this stuff out to not only up, but outward out to the campus community. So I'll show you some things we have in place to share information outside of these presentations. So this is what we, and again, I apologize for the stretch, but this is what remains this calendar year. We don't have a lot of projects that carry through the winter months. I think the exception again this year will be the next gen residence hall, formerly known as the STEM residence hall, and the Innovation Partnership Building. Just to orient the group, this is 195 here. Here's the city of Union, Gamble, North Eagleville, South Eagleville. It's just on the page here. We have projects that are already winding down. Those that were scheduled to get landscape improvements, tomorrow's the last day for them to get grass in place so it has time to establish before it goes dormant. Things like the sewer project along 195, you may have noticed that they're putting in plants and grass and all the pretty stuff now. Whereas the project over at the Quad on the ag campus where I went to school, that's going to get stabilized again like it was last year so that they can complete it next year. Engineering science program, some of you may have attended that event about a month or so ago. That has started in earnest. It was preceded by the demolition of the old central warehouse. Just trying to point out some of the bigger ones here. The renovations at Monteith, that started, but I've seen the construction fence start to go up over the past couple of weeks, and the change to the road pattern there on Whitney Road. We're parceling the information out into building and site development projects and utility projects. And with each of these slides, and I'll show you how you can access these on your own so you can look at it a little closer. We have them categorized in these two categories and then color coded the same. Those of you that are used to reading maps and read the legend on your own, however, we're also trying to inform our contractors ahead of time where they should enter their construction sites and from which direction. So the black arrows represent where we're going to see the majority of construction vehicles enter into the sites, and the red circles designate where the gates to those construction sites or what side of each individual site will be accessed by those vehicles. The limits are not exact. They look like they're exact shapes. They're not. I mean, this is the scale of this map was actually taken from the master plan as a base map, and it's all approximate, but it's gives you a good sense of the scale of some of the perimeters of where the fence would be located in any given construction site. So this is what we call a semester view, and it's specific to the remainder of this year. This is what we call a composite view. This is the entire year in one view, one map, for 2016. Now, the nature of our business, things can change daily. So this is a snapshot benchmarking where we thought we are as of today. This is the latest and greatest information, but it's subject to change tomorrow. So I'll show you how you can always, later in the presentation, how you can access the best available information. But you can see, if you did the squid test, there's a lot of activity going on next year, right? A lot of color on the map. But what I'd like to point out is that the campus core remains pretty much intact without a lot of impact to it. The individual colors in the composite view designate the two academic semesters and the summer break. So then we take that information and we parse it out. Let me go back to slide. One other differentiation to point out. When we do the composite views, we know when a project's beginning or ending, and when we get into the semester views, that's where we show the entire duration. So in other words, when it started the previous year, and if it's scheduled to end a subsequent year. And we continue to put them into two categories, utilities or building sites. Now, we have main difference between our spring and fall semesters and our summer semesters is that our department with our projects and facilities operations use the summer months to get the real dirty work done. The stuff that tends to create the most amount of impact to you, some of the things I described earlier. And that is the utility projects, all those big, dirty, open excavations. Those of you that were here over the summer may recognize that 195, it was tough to get through those summer months. And that was further compounded by Connecticut Water's work further up 195. So projects that you see in a very linear form are going to be related to our infrastructure work. Building and site projects will have these bigger footprints. Some of the ones that will be coming online in 2016 and already underway, we have a main accumulation area that's scheduled to start over near C-Lot. There's a new phase of the South Campus residence hall repairs that will be starting next year. Some water line replacement that we're reconnecting with Connecticut Water Project up 195. And then our bigger building projects like engineering, like Innovation Partnership Building, the ones I mentioned earlier, those typically have a 2-year burn, 18 months minimum, so you're going to continue to see IPB, engineering, STEM, Putnam, Monteith carry on for a couple of years. sure you've heard of the rec center. So that, somebody so here it is, here's the Connecticut Commons site. We currently have this map as early as fall of next year because of the demolition. There's been some conversation about maybe getting that into summer of next year. I'm happy to share with you that we have gotten through the process already in selecting an architect. We had about 9 or 10 teams respond to our RFP, and we quickly shortlisted and interviewed the top 3 and settled on the top team, negotiated the contract, it signed last week, and away we go. Now, there's the demolition project and all the utilities necessary to bring that building online. So there'll be a lot of activity in this general area beginning at least by the end of next year, getting ready for the real construction project, which is the building itself, which is scheduled to start kind of 2017 and open by 2019. And I think that should be all fairly consistent with what you've made on your own. That's a big one for the end of next year. Another one, as our utilities are in rough shape. I don't know how I'm not sure how much has been done since I was a student. They're aging out in a way that they have to be dealt with. They're aging out kind of concurrent with each other. So we're going to have a lot of utility work going on campus during the next gen program. And this is a new one on the map. This is phase 1 of a utility project that will run the entire length of North Eagleville Road. Currently, I think it's in 3 phases. They're designing the first phase now. They're trying their best to keep it to one side of the road. But what we have going for us is the road out to 44 will be open by that time. And in fact, it'll be open later this year. We're targeting by December 5th of this year. And then they'll come back next spring to do the pretty work, the tree plantings and the landscape in general. So December 5th is a key date for us because we have, that's the Notre Dame game with our women's basketball team. That crowd will be leaving about the same time as people come in for the Boston Pops concert that evening in Jorgensen. So it'll be really great if we can have that road open for those 2 events. And as we start to impact the utilities along North Eagleville, have that road open for folks to navigate around it. We're also, as part of the, in some sequence with the Student Rec Center, this one labeled in B, this was born in the master plan. It's called South Commons. It's a demolition of the old faculty row houses, which are mostly vacant, and a renovation just to a green passive space. There's some tree plantings, lawn, some succession plantings for the trees that are at maturity, and we should expect to see some die-off from that. So Harvard Yard was used as a precedent during the master plan process to kind of give people a sense of what that would look like, but it will be dedicated open space into the future. During the Student Rec Center project, we may use a portion of it to lay down material for that construction. This is the matrix I mentioned of the types of impacts we look at with different constituents on campus. You can see that we have some temporary and some permanent items there. Event disruption, one, pedestrian vehicular circulation, parking displacements. Parking, we work closely with logistics administrations and parking services people. As soon as we know that there's a temporary or permanent parking displacement, we tell them where it is, how many numbers, and they start strategizing how to deal with those displaced spaces. And I've been told by them that they've done a good job accommodating all those needs to this point. The Next Gen program does include 2,000 spaces of structured parking, and we're starting those conversations now, of which master plan had 3 garage sites in it, and we're prioritizing which one to come online first in the capital plan. So as I mentioned, we started looking at 2017. We have a little bit of a crystal ball, but as the further we go out, the more likely things are to change. But what we have in our capital plan now, there's the rec center again. Here's all what we think will be the utility corridors to it that we'll need to deal with. Mirror Lake, we know that we need to deal with Mirror Lake in the next few years. It's accumulated a lot of sediment since the last time it was dealt with. Some of you may know it's not a natural water body. It's actually a detention basin that was installed back in sometime between the 20s and 30s, I guess. And it has 8 inlets to it, primarily from South Campus and the Heritage District. So over time, it's accumulated a lot of sediment. Has anybody gone swimming in it? Mirror Lake? We've had some students swim in it before. Yeah, has anybody skated on it? At your own risk. I think they started putting signs out there last year. We did a water quality study last year that had some really revealing information about not only the water quality, but what was going into it, but the depths of the lake, which has contributed to its health, right? And the shallower water is, the faster it heats up. It's got pollutants in it. You see algae blooms. So the average depth of Mirror Lake right now is about 2 feet deep, when it should be about 7 or so. And that's, that's what happens with detention basins over time as those things start to accumulate. And there's some deep pockets in there as well. There's some depths to 4 feet. But it's something we need to deal with in the next few years, is to get that dredged before nature starts to take care of it on its own and create a marshy condition. The other thing that we're forecasting for 2017 that you might find of interest is a first phase of what was called the master plan fitness trail or fitness loop. George, we've had a conversation with George. Stephanie knows about it because we're trying to build in some enhancements to Celeron Path as part of the fitness trail project. We thought that was a good companion project to build in because Celeron Path is actually in the master plan as part of a greater trail network or multi-purpose path network. Celeron Trail would fit into a multi-purpose path category, not necessarily a spur, but we've already started conversations with Student Recreation about this project. Had meetings today actually with athletics to see what their plans are for a cross-country track somewhere on campus, see if there could be some synergy there. So that's a real exciting project. It's got some will and it's got some money behind it. We've already done the internal planning in our own department that would then allow the engineer to do a real project with it starting next year. We'll start turning the vision into a design that could be bid and constructed. We're excited about that one. And you can see the rest of the Legal project carrying down towards the North Garage in 2017. And so we've got slides in here that parse it out into the individual semesters again in a matrix again. I won't go through all that. Rather reserve some time for any questions. The last couple of slides. So what we do is a lot of our signature events happen in the same locations year after year. So this is the 2015 view. What we do is we take whatever activity is going on at that point in the year and we make all one color, in this case red, and put it on the same map with all the dots of where the events take place and the parking locations to understand where there's any overlap or obstructions to access to those events. And it becomes, again, a good communication tool to facilitate those discussions rather than just showing up in a room with an agenda and a notepad. I think that a lot of people, including myself, tend to understand things better graphically. mentioned facilities operation, logistics administration, university events, conference services, just to name a few that we talk to on a regular basis to try to get the word up and out. We also monitor work by Connecticut Water, Connecticut Department of Transportation, all of the things that might impact daily campus life on the periphery in getting to our campus each day. I've had presentations, like I said, for the past few months to different constituents on campus. I'm open to suggestion of any other student-based groups that could benefit from a presentation like this. You may have noticed, hopefully, including the staff of the Student Daily Digest. By the way, do you guys call that the Daily Delete? You guys read it, right? I've heard that categorized as the Daily Delete. I read it, and I tend to, if you're interested in what we do, we tend to post our stuff in I think it's called the Facilities and Transportation section. And you might have noticed earlier at the beginning of the semester, there was 3 or 4 days. They're only allowed to do so many days at a time. We posted information about this presentation and a new website. We'll talk about it in a second. So we use that as a tool to try to get the word out. There's also a thing called a deck list, which is the Building Emergency Contact List. It's another way to get the information out to a different cross-section of campus. These are the area managers for residence halls, kind of the boots on the ground, the people that might get impacted in a different way than the 30,000-foot view. And then we have a couple of websites. So we have our department website, which is bays.ucom.edu, PAES, the acronym for our department. It's hard to read, but there's the link to the maps I showed you tonight, updated 10/14/15. There's also additional information you might find interesting, particularly if you're interested in the nitty-gritty of any given project. There are construction status reports that we publish on a quarterly basis. The last update was in June. We tend to keep the last 2 up at any time. What those are reports by our project managers, including schedules, budgets, photographs of the construction going on these sites. There's also a link to the master plan that was approved earlier this year by the Board of Trustees. It did go into final form with all the comments incorporated in May. That's since been published through that link. You can not only see the master plan, but all the appendices that go along with it. I guess the last thing I would point out is there is in the news and presentations folder, there is a link. Actually, can I pull up the internet on this laptop? Great. This is a new website that University Communications published that we worked with them on. So it's ucon.edu/construction. This link right here. So it's a link to the same. It's a link to the same link that we showed to the rest of our site. Reference the file. It has the maps. It has our website. This link right here is contained in our presentations page. It's we give presentations to the Board of Trustees about the status of our projects. It's called project updates. This gives you a view of the renderings of each project. It's a one sheet, I guess you could call that. One slide for each project that talks about scope, schedule, and budget, and then a picture of either the construction that's going on or what the finished product will look like we that. Like now, actually got residence hall. I think that's another valuable piece of information, again, if you're interested in some details. So besides, here's my phone number, email address. I report to the university, chief architect, university master plan boards, but attending some of these presentations would be involved in some on the road. Again, I'm here just to let you know that this information exists, that you have a contact in our group. If you have additional questions, I encourage you to reach out to me. I've had the pleasure of getting to know some of you and some of our project meetings, and I encourage more of that dialogue. So I guess that's all I have, guys. I'll be happy to take some questions if I haven't put you to sleep yet. Yes?
Do you know how many
The new STEM building. Do you mean the residence hall? I believe it's approximately 700 beds. The new residence hall? Yeah, I believe it's, you're confusing this a little bit, because we do have an actual science building called STEM 1 that's going to be coming online in the X lot vicinity. That was in the master plan. But yeah, I believe it's somewhere around 700 beds. Yes?
Is the master plan back on track?
I'm not sure if it ever was off track.
Yeah, because like I know as part of the line coworker,
Yeah.
they fired the contractor that was working the problem, and they're revisiting the line coworkers. So like,
How recent was this?
we were told
Recently? No, I understand that there was a delay in the bid process, but I haven't heard of any longer term delays.
like it was supposed to be done before the school started, and then because of her issue happens. So they're just saying how much those line coworkers have to go find the town hall or
I'll be happy to get a better date for you. If you'd like to, I'll stop by and get your contact information on my way out. Any other questions?
So we'll make it, office residence on residences.
That's, it's obviously as soon as they're demo. So the thought is that the demolition of Connecticut Commons would not occur until the STEM, the next gen residence hall, is in place. So any displacement of beds would be absorbed by the additional beds at that residence hall.
Are there any more questions? All right, thank you, Sean.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody.
Is there anyone else that would like to be recognized for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move into the approval of the minutes. We will now move into the approval of the minutes from September 2nd. Is there a motion? Bird. There, a second. You're looking at Sponzo. Ignato. All those in favor of approving the minutes from September 2nd, please signify by saying aye. What's up? Sorry. Fine. Are there any questions regarding the minutes from September 2nd? Any debate? Yes.
One of my answers to set response about why we need to pass the election policy on the first date says just that. I said that she asked why we hadn't approved it yet, but the packets had been released to students that previous Monday. It says that I said it because I believe it says I just decided that it was more important to get it out. I believe my answer was, and the correct response to that is because election policy requires packets to be released to students on the first day of classes, even if they're awaiting approval. I just wanted that to be clarified in minutes.
So would you like to?
Yes.
Is there a second on this motion? Bird. So everyone, how are your midterms? If you put your hands up, thumb good, neutral, down. Okay, we got some thumbs up. Some neutrals, some downs. Did anyone have a fun midterm? Like any midterms you consider fun? Accounting is fun? Oh, interesting.
Okay, so, just because it's not up there. Okay, so yeah. I wish to amend this, piece by me on election policy.
All right, are there any questions regarding this amendment? Any debate? We're moving to a vote. All those in favor of approving this amendment?
Wait, sorry.
No, no need to be sorry. You wouldn't want to say oversight. Thank you, Sarah Lemoyne. We'll now move to a vote. All those in favor of approving this amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Passes. Now we move back into the overall approval of the minutes. Is there anyone else that'd like to be recognized for debate? These are these ones. All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes from September 2nd, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Approved.
Senators who are elected yet,
You are correct in that, but it's too late for you. Did it. I will now move to approval of the minutes from September 16th. Is there a motion? What? Yeah, this is the agenda. Motion by Cognado, is there a second? Second by Wang. Is there any questions regarding these minutes? Any debate? Yes. Yes, I apologize for not clarifying that before. If you weren't at the meeting, you can't really have an opinion on the minutes, so you should be abstaining. Thank you. Is there any other questions? Any debate? Yes, Senator Cognado.
I motion to amend, there's one part that refers to the water fountain promotions as the date following, so it should be fountain in the budget, in the budget. And under the debate for the Safe Campus Act, Kyle Harrington is sheet pronouns.
Is there a second for this motion? Seconded by Bird. So guys, it's Wednesday. Who did something exciting today? Anyone? None of you did anything exciting today? No? Am I just that boring of a speaker? Yeah, we got senior t-shirts today, and then Rachel said banana ice cream doesn't taste good.
Wait, can I announce that? I'll announce that and
Oh yeah, sure, Rachel, go ahead.
Senior Scoop was decided to in it, and I got to judge it. Someone got really proud of me, but I didn't like the banana flavor. It wasn't good.
Hater.
And then the winning flavor fudge swirl with some heat bar crushed in and mixed.
It's good, guys. It's good.
So the next step for all you seniors is going to be the naming competition. So keep an eye out for that, everyone. Banana one, not good though.
Hater.
So, do you guys like ice cream? Yeah. Do you like ice cream? What's your favorite type? What's your favorite type? Strawberry ice cream, really? Strawberry, interesting. I personally like raspberry sorbet. If you guys were there for my Robert's Rule Senate, just love it. I know, but it just, I go to the dairy bar and I get raspberry sorbet. Why am I so healthy? I'm not. There's so much sugar in that.
That's healthier than the ice cream.
And dairy bar ice cream though is not good for me. Okay, are there any questions in regards to the amendment that Senator Cugnato just made? Any debate? We'll now move into a vote regarding the amendment that Senator Cugnato just changed on the screen. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Raise them high, guys. I can't see them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the amendment passes. So we'll now move back into debate regarding the minutes of September 16th. Is there anyone else that'd like to be recognized for debate? Seeing none, we'll move into the vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes from September 16th, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Raise them high. There's 5 this time. There was a 6th person at one point. There we go. I would like to remind you guys that though I do not mind if you guys have electronics out, please pay attention. If it hinders your ability to do your job, I may be forced to ask you guys to 1, put them away, or 2, to leave. The minutes from September 30th, due to miscommunication, that's my fault. We weren't able to get those to you on time, and I apologize for that. So we will be skipping over that because we don't have them yet, and that's my fault. We'll now move into reports. Report of the President, President Convoy.
First one is I have a nomination for the African American Cultural Center. Student enrollment letter of intent. She's very interested in joining USG. She decided to get on committees, and I think she'd be a great addition to the Senate. So I'd like to nominate Fahima Darir for the ex officio seat for the African American Cultural Center.
Does the nominee accept their position?
I do.
Are there any questions for Ms. Fahima? Yes, Senator Cugnato.
So, obviously, African Cultural Center Texas seat was hotter last year, so that's a big shoe to fill, and it's homecoming week now. My question to you would just be what kind of ideas do you have, or like what made you want to be a civic center this year?
Well, my freshman year, it was one of the first places I went when I first moved in, and so it's kind of become a second home for me. And so I feel that in taking on this leadership position, I want to best represent the cultural center. I've been employed there for another 2 semesters, and so I feel very, I feel I've put forth a lot of time and effort into the center, and so representing it, just hoping to continue that.
Are there other questions? Is there any debate regarding this nomination? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of approving Fahima Darir to the ex officio from African American Culture Center, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Nominated. I apologize, guys. This is why I need a deputy. But also, while we have a little lull, can we all give Adia a round of applause for being homecoming queen? very kind today, Commissioner. Sorry, President Conlon.
Yep. So next up, I'm gonna yield, or I'll yield to Bennett. We have another elections oversight committee nomination.
So the Elections Oversight Committee, or this committee, but I would like to nominate as chair, Timothy Lynn, as prospective member of the Elections Oversight Committee.
Will the nominee please stand? Oh, you already are, thank you. Does the nominee accept their nomination?
I do.
Are there any questions for the nominee? Any debate? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote of the approval of Tim Lim to the Election Oversight Committee. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Nominated, approved. Nomination approved.
Next up, I'd like to yield, or actually, next up, I'd like to nominate Andrew Stern and Mark Zembrowski to the judiciary. And this is from, can I say one more thing? Sorry. This is from the nominations committee, which I nominated last Senate. They called out for letters and held interviews, and these were their recommendations. So it's Andrew Stern and Mark Zembrowski.
Will the nominees please stand? Do the nominees accept their position?
Yes.
Are there any questions for the nominees? Yes, Senator Byrd.
President,
Absolutely.
why two nominees? Because I thought we were only doing one.
I'll yield to the committee for this question. I think Eliza, you're gonna stand there.
Yeah, we had more than two applicants for the positions that were open. And on Monday, we deliberated for about 2 hours after conducting all the interviews, reading all the application resumes. And we really feel that having both of these they're very, very different nominees for the positions. We feel that they're only going to enhance the judiciary and really bring it forward for what the judiciary is trying to do for the future.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Absolutely.
So we'll have 6 justices.
Yes.
Okay. Oh,
Are there any other questions?
I have a
Yes,
follow-up.
yes.
What happens in the event of a tie between the judiciary, since there's an even number of justices?
I do believe it would be the 5. Senator LaVoy, do you know?
Yeah, all the five is certain, there might be a meeting number of people serving on the side, we might have a meeting decide.
Oh,
Yeah, they would be
so
chosen
no more than 5 would serve
on a case. That's just the case. Yeah.
We did talk about that when we deliberated, and given the fact that what the judiciary does with appeals and different cases that we might hear with elections, the full judiciary will never serve on a case, and there's always the potential for someone to have like a bias towards one side or the other with appeals and everything. So even currently with 5, there's never more than 3, so this means there would never be more than 5.
I have a follow-up.
Yes.
If no one else has a question.
Anyone have any other questions? Yes, Senator Canada.
I just want to confirm both of the nominees are non-voting members of the Senate.
Well, they're not. Well, they're justices.
Right, currently, they're non-voting members of the Senate.
Currently, Andrew Stern is not a member of USG, but this is him. Well, he was a former justice. He applied.
You're not.
And then
Okay, but you were not elected voting.
No, he was not elected. All right, Senator Byrd. Chairperson Byrd.
So how let's say there's a case and there's only 5, like 3 or 5 can serve on that case, adjudicate that case. Who chooses? Chief Justice? Is it like a random thing? Is that?
I don't actually know the answer to that question. I mean, I think when we get to the point of that, I think the Chief Justice chooses who's on that. And then any bias will be revealed at that point, and like, I don't see
I
that.
don't think it's going to be a
Yeah,
problem.
absolutely. Thank you for being thorough. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move into debate. Are there any debate about these nominations? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of nominating these 2 members to judiciary, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Approved.
Alright, next up, this is the big one, so I've been calling out for letters. It actually worked out pretty well. I think everyone got every seat they applied to for the most part. I got at least one of Student Affairs is looking into different programs and how to educate the general student body on diversity. I'd like to nominate Haya Ali for that position. The next committee that is up there is the CRT. I believe it's the Community Response Team, and that's out of the Dean of Students' office. It was also in the email, and that's actually, and they look into how the university responds to sexual assault, and I've only been on it a couple times, but it's about response to sexual assault on campus. Last year we went and presented to them the flow chart that Danielle Bergman had worked on hard, and then that's when they offered us the seats. So that was really great to work with them and then eventually get that opportunity. Next up, for other appointments, PAC is the President's Athletic Advisory Council, and I'd like to nominate Patrick Norris for that. Next is the Recreation Advisory Committee, which was through an application process last year, which myself and Steven sits on. I'd like to continue us on these. Some of these committees in this other category are not really appointments, you're chosen externally. So me and Steven were chosen last year to sit on this. Nishant Patel, I'd like to nominate to continue to sit on the START committee, which is it has to do with architecture. I'm sorry, I actually don't know. He sat on it for a year, and he continues to sit on it. He's already started filling out reports for it. But it looks at it's architecture and similar. I believe they work with Sean's office as well to look at what's the current structures of buildings on campus. Next up, Open Source Textbooks Committee. This is another one where it's actually an external appointment, but I'd still like to clump them in with the rest of it. And that's Dan Burden, Ben Catron, and that's the Open Source Textbook Committee. Is that the one that's on the university then, or is that the statewide one?
That's the university.
That's the university one, right? Next up is POC, that's the President's Library Advisory Committee. I'd like to nominate Erica Electricon for. SBAC is the Student Fee Advisory Committee, which I'd like to nominate Parth Rana for. This would be his second year sitting on it. He did a great job last year, and I'd like to continue with that. Next up, we move into University Senate Committee appointments. Curriculum courses, I'd like to nominate Alex Carr. For the Diversity Committee for University Senate, I'd like to nominate Lindsay Morrison. For enrollment, I'd like to nominate Austin Longer. For faculty standards, Dustin LeBoy. General education oversight, I'd like to nominate Shabazz Khan. Scholastic standards, I'd like to nominate Mackenzie Morrison. Student welfare, I'd like to nominate Cindy Dinkley and Eliza Conrad. For the University Budget Committee, Hector Liardi, Stephanie Sponzo. For University Senate, I'd like to nominate Dustin LeBoy, George Wayne, Timothy Liu, Stephanie Sponzo, and Austin Long is also on the side of that. Sorry, Austin, you got cut off on the screen. And then I sit on University Senate Executive as president. So those are my nominations. We've got the nominees on the right side.
Will all the nominees please stand? And so how we're going to do this, guys, if you have any questions or debate, you point it towards a single nominee or the president, whatever you
And I'll
want.
speak on behalf of those who aren't here.
And do all the nominees accept their nominations?
Yeah.
Are there questions for any of these nominees? Yes, Senator Gignotto.
I have a question for President Conklin, and I just want to preface to everyone that this is totally a respectful question. I just want to say that this is a context. I just noticed that George is appointed to my Senate committee, the CRT committee, University Senate. I believe he's on all 5 standing committees in the USG, and he's slated to be appointed as deputy speaker. Were there other submissions for these seats? Do you think that it's an option to spread someone that widely across
I
jobs?
think that's a great question. I think, so I'll yield to George in a second, but to answer the first part, no seats those seats that George got were uncontested. But I think it's a great question about time management. I will yield to George to talk about.
So I think a couple things to consider. University Senate meetings once a month has this year.
George, can you please speak louder?
Or you can come to the mic.
Okay, so some of these committees convene once a month, and others are on a bi-weekly basis. They will not in any way impact the work.
Yeah, so for those who actually didn't hear, and that was actually a great point, these committees aren't weekly. Like you, George said, University Senate's monthly, some of them are bi-weekly, so just in case you didn't hear. Are there any other questions?
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Senator Gignotto. That was a great point. Seeing none, we'll move into debate. Is there any debate regarding any of these nominations? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of approving these group of nominees, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Raise your hands high, guys. Commit to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Clearly nominated.
Alright guys, sorry. So I do have another topic to talk about. Next, I've been talking about I'm going to for now call it, I think this is the Global Relations Ad Hoc Committee we're going to be creating. Cassandra Lacey is going to chair that. And Matthew, if you want to stand up, I nominated last week for our Global House Exhibition, and he's really excited to work on the project. He has students outside of USG who are ready to come and sit on this ad hoc and work with us on it. And we're still looking for more senators to sit on it. So I'd like to yield to you, Matthew, to talk there, come up here, and talk about how you're excited.
First of all, my name is Matthew. I'm from Global House. A few weeks ago, I had an opportunity to speak to Rachel about this committee. I have a lot of concerns after the election about student relations, and particularly with the international community. And we both agreed that we really need to focus on making sure that international relations becomes a priority, not just within the USG, but throughout our UConn community as well. I'm generally very committed to global learning, and this is the reason, one of the reasons I'm here today is to encourage as many of you as I possibly can to join this committee. This committee is just not going to be idealistic, it's not going to be inefficient. We're going to focus on promoting international relations, but we'll do it in a very precise, concise, and targeted way. We'll appeal to we won't take on this burden on by ourselves. We'll encourage faculty that have an international background, local learning communities like Global House and Eurotech to join. We'll also reach out to international cultural groups like the Iranian culture group, the Ecuadorian, Indian. They've all been showing signs of kind of creating an atmosphere to encourage international awareness. And the other day I did see a poster in some obscure area in our library they were having an international night, but there was not enough visibility. And this is where I think we and the president feel that the USG can intervene. And yeah, so I highly encourage any of you that's interested to really reach out to Rachel or myself or Cassandra, and I look forward to doing this. And also, we'll also look to be doing a lot of symbolic things in the spirit of this committee. A lot of international students, undergraduate international students in my Global House learning community were not able to vote, and it's not conclusive that it was a matter of a USG fee. So we'll definitely be investigating into that and trying to make sure that they're involved in the USG process.
Are there any questions? Yes, Senator Burke.
When will this committee meet?
If you shoot me an email or shoot Matthew an email, I think most people my email, I will forward it out to them. They haven't set the meeting time yet. They're going to see who's interested first, then set the time based on everyone's availability. So if they're interested, shoot me an email.
Thank you.
Great question. Okay, guys, I usually do really quick reports, so I apologize. Two last things. Allie, Chief of Staff, sent out a doodle about open house this weekend. We got a couple responses. It's a lot of fun. It's a couple hours, however long you can be there. It's a great opportunity to outreach, and also newsletter by our PR director is out on the website. I'm done.
Are there any questions for President Convoy before she runs away?
Open house is this Sunday. The doodle was sent out last week, though, so it might be buried in your emails.
It shouldn't be all of people who've read it. And signed up. It's only 300 minutes.
All right, we'll now move into the report of the Vice President, Vice President Kugler.
thing I just wanted to mention was the U21 conference, which should be held here in the spring. We were searching for a date last time I talked to you. So we've decided that the conference is going to be between April 6th and April 10th. That's kind of a little bit further down the road, but I just wanted to keep everybody up to date on what's going on there. That was based on when the hotel had rooms to house the students that will be coming from all over the world. So kind of fits in nicely with the international thing that Matthew was just talking about. The second thing is the mentorship program. If you're a mentor, you should have gotten an email from me last week. Did everybody get an email? What's a mentor? Okay. And if anybody, I know I asked this last week, but if anybody's here that wasn't here last week, if you are a new member of USG and do not have a mentor, please let me know. And then the last thing is we have our first membership event coming up next week, which I'm really excited about. It's going to be an informal one, and there's more of these to come that are going to be, off campus and things like that. But the first one to know about is next Thursday, October 22nd. We're going to be having sort of an informal late dinner at McMahon. So we're just going to meet there and all have some time to spend together. And those membership events are designed to kind of let everybody get to know each other on a more personal level outside of the work that we do. So if anybody has any questions about that, please let me know. You should have gotten an email from me about that this afternoon. The next membership event, there'll be another email coming out. It's probably going to be apple picking. I hope everybody be interested in that. I know I am.
Are there any questions for Vice President Truesdale? Seeing, Senator Sponza.
And that brings up a good point with the mentors. If you are a mentor, you are, if you are a mentor, the reports for that first bi-weekly question are due this Friday at 5 o'clock. So in case you forgot about that, I've got one of them. Thank you, Stephen. So anybody else, please get that.
Are there any other questions for Vice President Kugler? Yes, Senator Canada.
Are you confident that there will be enough swipes to go around for those of us who do not have meal plans at this group dinner?
Raise your hand if you're willing to swipe people in to this group.
Cool. Here, what's the love then?
So what you say? Like you say,
That's the next one.
Any other questions for Vice President Kugler? Yes, Senator Burr.
You say, can I use a swipe? And they'll swipe you in.
So basically, no, this is a really good question. And when I first started at the university, I was confused with this too. So you get like a certain number of swipes depending on your meal plan. So you can it's called flexing people in. And when you go to the desk, they'll swipe the card twice and then they'll swipe somebody else in with you. And it will take away one of your flex swipes. And usually I know I always had like 25 swipes left over. So apparently I have friends from outside the university.
Senator Burr, the next time you go to the dining hall, you can, when you swipe in, you can ask the worker how many flex passes you have left. It shows up when you swipe in. Yes. I think he's getting a wealth of advice right now, so I think he's all set. Are there other questions for Vice President Kugler? Thank you. Now we move into the report of the legislature.
First thing we'll do is swear in the justices. Do you want to do it for your report? Oh, we'll wait for your report. All right. So guys, thank you for coming to Senate. It's great to have you here. First of all, I'd like to make an apology about my attitude and behavior over the past month. I know some of you have raised questions about my behavior, and I'd like to apologize formally for that in front of everyone. If you have any problems with me, please don't hesitate to come up to me and tell me about it. As I told exec on Monday, I come from a family of 5 kids. When we don't like what the other person is doing, we kind of just yell at each other, and that's how I get messages through. So just tell me, and I'll fix whatever I can. And I apologize really because I was just being not me, and I really want to make this USG as welcoming and as productive as possible. So, that's first of all. Second of all, Senator Michael and Senator Garris came up with a great idea for a dodgeball tournament for USG outreach, and I've got to reach out to them, but I'm going to do that right after this meeting. I encourage you all to think about fun, out-of-the-box outreach activities that we can do, because we have money, and we should do something with that money. And one of the best results we can get from that is suggestions, comments, criticisms, anything from our constituents. And lastly, I will be nominating my deputy speaker, and that deputy speaker will be George Wang.
Will the nominee rise? Does the nominee accept his nomination? Okay. Any questions for the nominee? Is there any debate? Seeing none, we'll move into. Okay, I'll let speak.
If there are any concerns about George being strung out, him and I are going to have a heart-to-heart about work-life balance after, in the next week or so. So if that helps or anything, because I know all of you, if you've known George for like more than a few moments, he jumps at the opportunity to do anything to help anyone. At one point, he drove from my house to go buy cookies and then back to my house because I said I wanted cookies jokingly. And then he went out and bought cookies and then came back. So, he's a great guy, but we were going to talk to him about being a little selfish for himself. But yeah, I think he's a great candidate, and him and I get along really well together, and I look forward to adding him to the Senate leadership with Cassandra, and hopefully we can get a lot of things done this year.
Is there any debate on this? Anything else? No? Okay. Alright, so now we're going to move into a vote. All those in favor of accepting the nomination of George P. Wang as Deputy Speaker of the USG Senate, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
2 abstentions? Clearly passes. Congratulations. Are there any questions for Speaker Wang on anything he said during his report? Senator Cognado.
As far as the posting of like documents and minutes and legislation and things like that to the USG website, is that Senate leadership job? Is that like office staff?
That's great that you bring it up. Dan Bird, I, and Andrea Denisu, who does the minutes, and Nikki will be meeting sometime either at the end of this week or the beginning of next week, and we will figure it out, period. Because we all know that this is an issue, and we need to figure it out because it's irresponsible of us to let it go on for this long. But thank you, Senator. We are anticipating.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none.
All right, we'll move on to the report of the Comptroller, Comptroller Rana.
How's everyone? Fantastic. Okay.
You're loud.
What's up? How's everyone doing? Fantastic. So, we have spent $20,425.04 on legislative requests. We have a $40,000 line item budget for it, which means we only have $19,574.96 available. Historically, over the past 2 semesters, we've used no more than $24,000 in legislative requests in spring 2015 as well as fall 2014. So those are just numbers to keep in mind. 2 weeks from today, there's going to be some changes proposed to our current fall 2015 budget, as well as hopefully I can speak with Speaker Reeves sometime over the course of the next couple of days in regards to formulating and talking about our fall budget and our spring budget at caucus next week. So anyone interested in working on the budget changes between now and next between now and next caucus, please reach out to me. Yeah.
Are there any questions for Councilor Ryan?
No question ever?
Thank you.
Question?
So does that mean we have a budget surplus?
No. So that's what we, based on the way that at the moment our budget was set up, we would have a budget deficit. Given that $6,000, the budget we approved was at minus $6,000, assuming that we're not going to spend all of it. But for fall 2015, by literal terms, yes, we would be in a deficit. We wouldn't be in surplus. But by the end of the semester, we'll probably still have surplus. We'll have a rollover fund available. But the changes that we want to present to Senate will try and help mitigate these risks and help make it easier for us to be transparent and make sure we have even more accurate numbers going forward so that we're not over budgeting or under budgeting for any single line item.
Thank you, Senator Burr. Senator Sponzo.
So what would you recommend to the senators in the future, like in the coming weeks, if we're approached with a legislative request? Would you advise us to say, no, we're not going to bring it to Senate, or would you advise us to write it, bring it to Senate, and then have the Senate be a little more, have the Senate be more, or less lenient on what we allow to be funded, most from your position?
I would consider that the discretion of the senator in the sense of really, in your mind deciding what a legislative request on emergency fund is. If a group omitted their request from their budget and sought funds necessary, that's your discretion as to whether or not you think that that was active or passive, if that was negligent, or if that was negligent. I don't know my vocab that well, but if they actively are doing this in the sense of trying to just secure more funds or not, that's kind of your right to think about it. I would never say for you to outrightly deny just because you think we might not have enough funds. If we're going to be proposing our budget again in 2 weeks, of course this line item of legislative request can be changed. More funds added to it if we deem it necessary, or more can be retracted from it if we want to be hard assed. But that's not going to obviously happen. So, that's a way to think about it. Is you don't want to turn down a group because that's collectively that's an individual making a decision for an entire organization versus giving every senator an equal opportunity in here to speak. So let it come to Senate.
Thank you, Senator Sponzo. Senator Cardano. Are there any other questions for Comptroller Rana? Thank you, Comptroller Rana. Seeing none, we'll move now into the report of academic affairs. Chairperson Gopal.
So is the mic working or not? Nope. Pauses. No, I'll keep it short anyway. I just wanted to say congratulations to the Vice Chair for Administrative Relations for Academic Affairs, which is Dustin LeBoy, and the Vice Chair for Event Coordination, which is Mackenzie Morrison. So looking forward to seeing them get more involved in USG this year, especially since they were just nominated for some university senate position. Academic Affairs has been working closely with Vice Provost Mark Bedard on an initiative of the UConn libraries. In the interest of time, if you're really interested in what we're doing, either come to Ac Affairs tomorrow at 6:30 or just talk to me. I'll be more than happy to give you more details on that. But yeah, that's all.
Are there any questions for Chairperson Gopal? Yes. No,
Here's that it is, but you have to get really, really close to it. We can use this, I guess, if you really want. Did you hear my report of this?
No, you can just share this. It's not on the floor. What's up?
This? This? Yeah, I can do that. Do you need my report again? For the future.
Thank you, Chairperson Gopal. We'll now move into the report of external affairs. Chairperson Byrd. Excuse me, Senator Canada, you're out of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So this week in external affairs, We did our playground building activity where we went over to the community center and helped build a playground, which was excellent. We broke into teams, and external affairs stayed as one team, and we built this cool rocket ship bridge thing. We did it pretty much all on our own. It was a lot of team building, a lot of things we came across we didn't know what to do. We had to stop and figure it out. So I really like that activity. I know external affairs wants to do more of those things. So thank you to everyone who came out and volunteered. This week we also came up and set some of our goals for the semester. And for next semester, we'll be meeting with Greg Haddad and May Flexer about some of the legislation that they're going to be bringing up. I know they're interested in bringing up affirmative consent again, which didn't end up going through last year. So the committee may well take that on. Lastly, I just want to say I appointed my leadership. So for my vice chair for town affairs, I chose Joyce Scobo. For my state vice chair for state affairs, I chose Haley Hinton. And for national liaison, I chose Cassandra Puglisi. So I'm very excited about having them on my team, and we're going to do a lot of great work this year.
Are there any questions for Chairperson Berg?
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you.
We'll now move into the report of funding board. Chairperson Porcello.
Two quick things. Two quick things. Number one, we have a new funding system that is now up and running, and the budgets are live on Friday, which is awesome. They're going to be due the 30th. So if anyone asks, they're live on Friday, they're due the 30th. My second point is if you're working on any legislative funding, let me know as soon as you start working on it. Just as a rule. The minute you start working on it, let me know. That's it. So thank you.
Are there any questions? Senator Condado.
Can you just say an update on how we're doing as far as reaching funding board's budget?
Yeah, we're actually a little lower than I thought. I'm still making my way through October 2nd. I'm going to probably stay after Senate and work on those tonight. Last time I checked, we're like 675,000, and the limit was 800,000. We have about half of October 2nd to go through, and all of October 16th, which is a smaller deadline. If I had to guess, 730, 740,000.
Is where we're at too.
Is where we're getting close to. So, but I could be wrong. It could go. We won't go. I don't think we'll get close to 800,000. Like to the point where
We have 850, right?
we have 800,000, and then 40,000 in legislative funding, and another 10,000 in some of this funding.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Senator Chairperson. So we'll now move into the report of student development. All right, Chairperson Conrad.
Hi, friends. Irma apologizes for not being able to be here. She sent me her report. She'd like to congratulate Senator Stephanie Goebel, who will be the point person for the sexual assault flow course this year. Justin who will be a point person for the Masculinity Project, and Senator Sponzo, who will continue to work with the Celeron Path Project and is the vice chair for student development this year. So congratulations. And she says that the committee is at the start of taking action on certain projects and looking forward to start new ones as well. That didn't really make sense. She didn't have a whole lot to report. She'll have more next week after they get started on more things.
Are there questions for Chairperson Conrad about Chairperson Valverdez's report? Thank you, Chairperson Conrad. And now move to the report of student services. Chairperson Conrad.
Okay, so I have two vice chairs this semester. I'm planning to keep them for the year. First, my vice chair for advocacy on behalf of students to the administration is going to be Joyce Scobo. And then my vice chair for outreach to the student body is going to be Sarah Curtis. We're really excited to start working. We met with maintenance last week. George Wang and I went, and we are getting started on the air conditioning project with them. They're trying to incorporate it into their overall air conditioning project for classroom buildings and office buildings on campus, and we're going to be meeting in about 2 weeks with them again to have another update. They already installed new water bottle filling stations for us on campus, so we don't have to worry about paying for those ourselves, which is awesome. And they're more than welcome to have students tell them where they want more on campus. And what they're going to be doing now, just so everyone knows, as they break, they're not just putting in like the old-fashioned type of water fountains. They're putting in the new bottle filling stations. Whenever one breaks, they're automatically doing that. So they're well ahead of the game on that project. I have specific buildings that I'm going to talk about in my committee tomorrow, where they're doing all of that work, as well as some other information about maintenance in general. So if you are interested in that, just let me know. I'll be here after the meeting for a little bit. And we also met with Joyce Gobo, and I met with Dennis Pierce, who's the head of dining, on Monday. We talked a lot about different initiatives that we had discussed in committee the weeks prior, and we're going to be working with one of his employees on their dining services survey that the student body gets every semester. We're going to be working on marketing with it and the actual survey itself to have it be most beneficial to the students to get their needs across to dining services, as well as dining services, so they can get as much information as possible so they can improve their services to students.
Are there any questions for Chairperson Conrad?
How is the water bottle installation?
Right now, we're actually going to be looking at different safety initiatives on campus. One of them, my committee member, I was going to say Tim again, but it's Tim. Tim Sullivan. I actually don't think called him like Mark during committee, and I was mortified. So I never want to get his name wrong again, because I actually know it's Tim. We're working with Tim on different safety-related projects on campus, so students feel more safe walking at night. We're looking at investing in pepper spray to protect students as an outreach thing, and getting different, because pepper spray is legal in Connecticut, mace is not. Back to step. So we are doing more research on different projects like that if that one is not feasible. So we are working on reallocating it, and if we don't end up using all $7,000 or $5,000, I believe it's $7,000, we are obviously going to reallocate that so it is used properly, not used feasible.
Are there other questions? Yes, Senator Cognado.
Is there any correspondence with public safety or university administration about getting out of this, right?
We literally talked about it in discussion for all of 5 minutes on Friday. It's a brand new thing. We're gonna Tim did a lot of research this week, and we're gonna be discussing it in depth at our committee meeting on Friday. If you are interested in that at all, definitely come to the meeting or talk to me before Friday, and I will definitely talk to anyone about that.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Chairperson Conrad.
On the agenda I sent out, I left off the Chief Justice's report, so by unanimous consent, can we add that to the report? All right, seeing none, we'll move into the report of the Chief Justice. Chief Justice Britt.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. For those of you who were here earlier this evening, you'll see that Mark Zabrowski and also Andrew Stern, who has left, were selected to be new members of the judiciary. So we are going to swear them in. Mark, you'll come on up here.
I, Mark Zabrowski,
Do
solemnly promise
to uphold the Constitution,
bylaws and rules
of the undergraduate student
at the University of Connecticut in Scripps. As justice,
I promise to execute all duties and responsibilities vested in me, and shall wisely and cautiously educate any and all matters that challenge the ethical and lawful foundation on which our government is based. And that's all for me.
Are there any questions for Chief Justice Britt? Yes, Senator Burr.
He was holding the mic, I think that was.
pretty sure it took, so. Already left, you might have been that.
Are there any other questions?
Seeing none, we'll now move into new business, an act concerning emergency funding for the Yukon chapter of American Society of Consultant Pharmacists. That's a long name. Got you.
Okay, hi guys. Before we begin, I just want to type in at the bottom that I am the author and that we have some sponsors here. Please read it. Thank you. Okay, I will start reading. So, an act concerning emergency funding for the Yukon chapter of American Society of Consultant Pharmacists. Whereas the undergraduate student government is charged with improving the quality of student initiatives through funding. Whereas the mission of ASCP is to educate students about consultant pharmacy and to prepare them for taking care of the elderly. Whereas ASCP has the need for legislative funding to enable them to attend their annual national meeting in Las Vegas, Nevada, an event in clear accordance with their mission statement. Whereas ASCP was approved by their dean to attend the aforementioned event on Friday, September 25th, therefore requiring them to apply for emergency legislative funding. Whereas the event is subject to Category D funding, or 75% cut. Whereas the aforementioned event will take place in Las Vegas, Nevada from October 29th to November 1st and will require payment for 4 nights of hotels, 13 plane tickets, and registration for 13 members. Whereas funding policies dictate a 150 cap per night, and ASCP will be requiring free hotel rooms for 4 nights, with appropriate category cuts resulting in 1,350 allocated for hotel expenses. Whereas funding policies dictate a $350 cap per plane ticket, and ASCP will be requiring 13 round-trip tickets, with appropriate category cuts resulting in $3,412.50 allocated for plane tickets. Whereas the aforementioned event requires a $99 registration fee per member for 13 members, with appropriate budget cuts resulting in $965.25 being allocated for group registration. Therefore, be it resolved that the undergraduate student government allocates a total of $5,727 to the Yukon chapter of American Society of Consultant Pharmacists to pay for expenses related to their chapter's annual national meeting.
I will give the second to Goebel and the motion to Kennedy. Are there any questions regarding this piece of legislation? Yes, Senator.
Can the group please explain the nature of the event, the kind of things that will be going on, and the people that will be speaking with?
Yes, I'm going to yield to Matt for this.
Hi everyone, I'm CFO of the American Society of Consultant Pharmacists. So we are requesting funding for our national annual meeting where schools from different, all different schools will be attending. So mainly the focus of this is that there's going to be a bunch of lectures and continuing education workshops for both pharmacists and students. In pharmacy, it's required every year that pharmacists to continue practicing must fulfill educational requirements. This will be provided at this at these annual events. The lectures will be broken up into lecture portions where we will be with the pharmacists, but while they are taking their assessment portions to receive credit, students will be working in teams with other students from all of the pharmacy schools. They'll be in attendance to go over cases specifically for geriatric pharmacy. This is what our group is. It's specified with geriatric pharmacy and consultant pharmacy. So we will be going over cases where we'll see problems with geriatric patients who have many disease states and who are not controlled with proper meds. So we'll be working pretty much in a team setting, gaining experience in interprofessional team building, which is where healthcare field is going to, a team of doctors and pharmacists, etc. And we'll be working with students specifically in our end to come up with proper medication regimens that will be used in geriatric populations. Also, there are specific workshops for just students that we will be attending. Same thing, it's a lecture portion followed by cases. And then also there is one whole night dedicated to student representation of student education, where I know for UConn School of Pharmacy we will be presenting posters about proper medications to give to renally insufficient patients who are elderly, and because there's so many contraindications with that, and we will be working with other student chapters, absorbing ideas from each other, and bringing back ideas to effectively run our chapter here.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I'll give Priscilla.
Does your group receive any departmental funding? Because in the review from funding board, that was the only question we brought up. Everything else was crystal clear. We just were questioning, does your group receive any departmental funding?
We don't receive any departmental funding.
Perfect. Senator Burr.
Yeah, so was the hotel you chose to stay at the cheapest one in the area?
Well, yes. So so far we have not booked our hotel. We have put reservations for certain hotels. We're going to book the cheapest one when we see that.
And will the same thing apply to airline as well?
Yeah, there's a cap, there's a funding cap on the hotel for $150 per night, as well as a $350 cap on plane tickets. So regardless,
Yeah, at this point, it would be exceeding 150 and 350. So when I talked to Stephanie, we were just waiting.
yeah, so those cuts will come.
All right. Any other questions? Chairperson Burr?
If you could explain some of the response of why this is going through legislative funding rather than the regular funding process. I know it says that there's a need for legislative funding, but why?
Yes, I think it says in the legislation, they were approved by their dean to attend the aforementioned event on Friday, September 25th, which was past the deadline so this is going through.
So this is just like a time.
Yeah, because they needed to be approved by their dean to go.
We actually had a change in the deans, so it was pushed. We actually the new dean was appointed, I believe, the second week of September, and then he was very backed up, and he didn't get back to us until the 22nd.
I'm going to let Senator McDowell go first.
Yeah, is there a specific reason why you guys are responsible to the dean for approval of returns?
Well, I mean, mainly with our, schooling or curriculum, we're required to attend mainly every class, and, skipping any class would, be subject to punishment, or possibly, deduction of grades.
So you were approved to be excused?
Yeah, so it's approved to have excused absences.
All right, Chairperson Burr?
My last question would be for Senator Sponzo. Are you concerned that the cost being almost $6,000 after Comptroller Ron just explained to us that we only have about $92,000 left in the line item budget for funding requests?
Yeah, actually for that reason, I asked Comptroller Rana when he was up here, how he advised, senators in this position, would you have a group come to you for funding? Because Comptroller Rana only just got here tonight, and this group came to me a couple weeks ago. I didn't have that information when this group came to me. I don't think they should be penalized for that. For that reason, I obviously am in support of this going through. In the future, I would encourage senators to think about approving funds of this quantity moving forward.
Are there any other questions? Comptroller Rana.
Would the group be willing to take any kind of compromise in regards to the number of members they take? That's just a yes or no.
Yes. We had 13 original people who were very vested and interested in it. Since this process has been going over a little while and it is coming up soon, we sent out we continue to send out emails. We have had members who are not going to attend. So far we only had one. So we can definitely compromise with that.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move into debate. Would anyone like to debate this piece of legislation? Chairperson Burr. Oh. Senator Cognata. If you want to come use this mic.
Hey everybody, I just want to talk a little bit on a point that was made earlier, point out that regardless of where we are in terms of reaching the cap for legislative funding, I don't think that we should be using that as a factor to decide whether or not we approve student groups for funding, just because the cap for legislative funding could have been set to a different amount. I don't think it really is beholden to student groups at all that we're reaching that cap. Going forward, I think we're going to see some more legislative requests before the end of the semester. So I think our budget is something that we should handle and not use as a metric for gauging whether or not we should be approving funds for students.
Would anyone else like to be recognized for debate? Does that microphone work? Awesome. You can place it up there. Slide so next up. Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of approving and enacting. Oh, sorry, Chairman Purcell.
Yeah.
I apologize. Okay. We will now move into a vote in an act concerning emergency funding for the Yukon chapter of American Society of Consultant Pharmacists. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention. Quickly passes. Congratulations. All right. Now move into an act concerning emergency funding for Yukon Women's Lacrosse Club.
An act concerning emergency funding for Yukon Women's Lacrosse Club. Whereas the undergraduate student government is charged with improving the quality of student initiatives through funding. Whereas the Yukon Women's Lacrosse Club team will be participating in the Santa Barbara Shootout competition in February. Whereas the competition limits the number of teams that may participate and allocates spots on a first-come, first-served basis. Whereas the entry fee for the competition is $950, which is a Category C request, and is thus funded at 75%.
Whereas the group is requesting funding for the registration through legislative funding due to the time-sensitive nature of the competition. Whereas the group is requesting all other funds for this event through the regular funding process. Therefore, be it resolved, the undergraduate student government allocates $712.50 to the Yukon Women's Lacrosse Club for the registration fees associated with the Santa Barbara Shootout competition.
I will give the motion to Carr. All right, second to Bird. Are there any questions regarding this legislation? Yes, Senator Canada.
With us reaching the $40,000 legislative request cap, are you concerned at all that this is almost $700 in funds?
No, it's not that much.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move into debate. Is there any debate regarding this legislation? Yes, Senator Bird. Chairperson Bird.
So I just wanted to quickly explain in case the legislation isn't exactly clear. This event is for next semester, so they're applying for this event through the regular funding process. The reason they're asking for this money now through legislative funding is because they won't be able to make the register for the tournament unless they pay for it really soon. So that's why they're asking for it now, even though it's not for next semester. It's not until next semester.
Thank you, Chairperson Bird. Senator LaVoy.
This legislation is unanimous approval of funds.
Thank you, Senator LaVoy. Is there any other debate? Alright, we'll now move into a vote of an act concerning emergency funding for Yukon Women's Lacrosse Club. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. We'll now move into an act concerning modernizing the funding policies.
Alright guys, I know I do this like every other week, but I don't know, I just didn't make all the changes in one legislation, and some of these are really important, and our funding policies are actually going to make a little more sense now, which is awesome. An act concerning modernizing the funding policies, whereas the funding board chair has the ability to recommend changes to the funding policies, therefore, be it resolved
this is going to get a little technical, that the funding policy under Section 2 operating procedures of the funding board be amended to remove section number 5. And this is what's being removed. The operating procedures shall be approved every academic year by a majority of the funding board, the chair, the USG comptroller, and the USG president. Be it further resolved that the funding board policy under Section 4 eligibility and restrictions under section number 6, funding will not be provided for any of the following requests without exception under bullet letter F. Compensation to University of Connecticut undergraduate and graduate students. That the bolded section of that bullet be removed, as it is the current practice to fund graduate students in contractual instances. Be it further resolved under section 5.2 semesterly request restrictions that section number 2 be removed in its entirety, and here's what's being removed. All requests for catering and food shall use the UConn Dining Services Student Organization menu unless the requested items are not available. If the requested items are not available on the student organization menu, the request shall be funded at a maximum of the cost of the most comparable item on the student organization menu. Be it further resolved under section 5.2 semesterly request restrictions under section number 4 that a section labeled A be added to state all requests for a single coach by 2 teams in one semester will result in a maximum in funding of $4,000 from one team and $2,000 from the second team. Be it further resolved under section 5.2 semesterly request restrictions under section number 6 that bullet C be amended to state requests for ground travel shall be funded for a maximum of 500 miles of total travel round trip. Requests for mileage reimbursement shall be funded at $0.575 per mile or the current state rate. And then we're removing requests for travel by bus or train for greater than 500 miles shall be prorated to the cost for 500 miles. Be it further reserved under section 5.3 allocation procedure that section 3, including bullets A and B, be removed in its entirety. Capital requests shall be processed in the following manner. Requests for the item per item costs below $1,000 will be allocated by the funding board and approved by the Senate as described in the preceding sections. Requests for the per item cost is in excess of $1,000 shall be separated from the total semesterly request and presented to the Senate individually as described in section 5. So that's all removed. Be it further resolved under section 7, dispersal of funds, under section number 1, the word 06 SCE be revised to office. That's just a typo that I'm changing. Be it further resolved that under section 5.3 allocation procedure that section 3, which had previously been deleted in entirety, now state the funding board chair will have the authority to increase the funded amount of a request up to the total amount budgeted for that request.
Are there any questions for Chairperson Porcella? Actually, sorry, a motion was all right. Any questions? Chairperson Byrd.
For the coach situation, with the $4,000 and $2,000 so that no coach gets more than $6,000, why is it not $3,000 and $3,000? And the only reason I ask is because isn't the group that gets $2,000 in funding advantage in that they're farther away from the $12,000 cap?
Potentially, we typically haven't had a problem with this because most of the groups are super tight, like men's and women's ski team, or it's the CFO is the same in both groups and it's just 2 different tier 2 student orgs. So generally they're collaborating on their budgets and they're making it work. I mean, I would, if you want to amend it, this is just how we've done it in the past few semesters. It hasn't been in our funding policies, so we could add it, but it's just a shell game, you know what I mean? I mean, I understand your concern if you wanted to amend.
Would you be, you don't vote, but saying that, like, as funding board chair, would you be comfortable with that as a rule? Even 2 teams are like working together, I still feel that like if men and women's ski team have the same coach, women's gets $2,000, they take a whole other trick with 3 people. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. If you wanted to motion it, I guess.
Senator Sponza. Did you not?
Yeah, I was just wondering why not the student organization menu? Like, why are we getting rid of that section? Or
As far as I understood, that was put in because an old funding board chair had worked with UCatering on a special student menu with the idea that it would be like cost effective for most student groups. What's frustrating about it is that we have a lot of great cultural organizations on campus, and they a lot of times request food that's just like U Catering doesn't have. So it seems foolish to like require them to use the most comparable price on U Catering if it's not even, they have no comparable foods. It just seemed like unnecessary now.
I'm going to let Senator Burke go first and then come back to you. Senator Burke? Burke.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
In the second, no, go over. Okay, so second paragraph, the fund grad students and contractual, what contractual instances are you referring
Coaching, so right now if there's a grad student as coach, that's been viewed okay in the past, and we have allowed grad students to coach. We won't allow an undergrad to coach, but we have allowed grad students to coach. We've allowed grad students to compose arrangements of music for student groups, coaching and potentially providing services of entertainment like DJing or something. We've allowed grad students in the past. When I became chair, you know, it's just something that's been done. So I just thought we might as well formalize it and change the policy to reflect that. We haven't seen any harm from allowing grad students to coach, provide services, and I think it just is a benefit to student groups. I do see potential conflicts of interest with undergrads, so I think we should maintain that restriction, but kind of formalize the change for grad students.
So those contractual instances is the notion that the grad students are coaching and they're overseeing a lot of these work.
It's one instance where it could be a contractual instance, could be coaching, could be other things too.
Senator Burke, Senator Sponzo.
Could you just expand on what digital graphics
Do you want me to just go over all of them? Would that help? No. Okay, second to last one's pretty fun.
Yeah, could you just explain that?
Definitely. This is probably the most important one, actually. So right now what happens is, I'm going to just throw out some examples. Let's say Formula SAE, they build cars, and they request $1,000 in supplies. That's what they're budgeted. Then in the funding stage, we fund them $800 because that's what the cheapest quote comes out. What happens is these quotes change prices. So we funded them at $800, but over the summer when they went to buy it, the price went up to $820. In my opinion, we should be able to, at the discretion of the chair, just increase their funding to $820. But the way it is now, there is no way to do that without getting the whole funding board together, taking a vote, and this happens all the time. In small amounts of money, but you know, you don't want to make, it would be very burdensome to have a formal vote every time a $15 or $20 increase happened. And the Senate has approved up to the budgeted amount. So this is just really a small power to the funding board chair that really expedites processes, and it's approved. Kim Miller, who works in the business office, was concerned when we were approving price changes that weren't necessarily reflecting what was happening in the minutes. So this gives the funding board chair that authority to just make those changes.
Jefferson Burke.
So that was my question as well, and now that you answered it, is there any way for the funding board to overturn your decision so that you don't have, or any future funding board chairs don't have unilateral decisions in this? Because normally these would be things that funding board would be approving, and now you're completely taking away the right to do it about it.
I guess if you want to think that way, it seems a little hyperbolic to me because the Senate's already approved the budget and the funding board has already approved the funding. So it's not something that wasn't, it's something that's already been approved in the funding policies.
So you're saying that the funding board already approved up to $1,000 for the item, for example, like you said. And if the price is $20, then the funding board shouldn't have a problem because they already approved that one.
Right, like it's not against policy because it's already been approved once and it's still the cheapest quote if the price just went up. So there's no real reason.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move into debate. Would anyone like to debate? Chairperson Burke.
Oh, how?
Oh, you want it? Oh, sis. Sorry, I was out of order. I apologize.
I accept it as friendly, does it just expedite everything?
I don't think you can now that it's been motion.
Yeah.
So I'm moving to amend the section regarding 4,000 and 2,000.
Is there a second? Senator Canada.
And I would ask the funding board chair if you think this language makes sense based on, you said, maximum funding of 3,000 for one team and 3,000 for the second team. Is that wording okay? So just change the numbers from 4 to 3 and 2.
Are there questions regarding this amendment? Any debate? Seeing none, we'll move it to vote. All those in favor of amending this piece of legislation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Approved. We'll now move back into debate. Would anyone like to be recognized for debate? Comptroller Rana.
Stephen deserves a round of applause for his efforts in making these changes. As well as funding board for that matter, because I was chair 2 years ago, and a lot of these things were just assumed or the funding board chair's discretion or implied. So by making things more clear, making them more transparent, we're furthering ourselves towards our goal of making sure that the students' interests are always put first.
Would anyone else like to be recognized for debate? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of passing an act concerning modernizing the funding policies, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. We'll now move into discussion. Would anyone like to be recognized for discussion? Seeing none, we'll move into announcements. Would anyone like to be recognized for announcements? Senator Sponzo.
Hi guys, so just one quick thing. I would just like to introduce everyone to my friend Freddie Santiago, who is here from, you can stand up. He's from, sorry to like put you on the spot. He's from Hartford's Associated Student Government. So I met him last week or the week before, I can't remember exactly, but in an effort that Tim Lim and I are putting together at UConn Unity, we're going to be working closely with Freddie as well as the rest of the members of the Hartford ASG. So he took the initiative to drive here because he wanted to see what Store's campus student government is like. So you guys want to just like chat with him afterwards, do some student government networking. I would encourage you all to do that, and I just wanted to introduce him. Okay, awesome, thanks guys.
Senator Ali. Oh, Madam Queen Ali. My apologies. I'm out of order.
I've been stripped of my account. Next Tuesday, the Women's Center, the ACC, and all the cultural centers, as well as the African Studies departments, are going to be hosting a vigil for the female, women identified victim of police brutality. We're working with the African American Policy Forum and Dr. Crenshaw on the Senate to really important and really appreciate you guys all come out. I really appreciate you guys all come out. It's at 6:30 on the student terrace. It's going to speak out and spoken word, and singing, all that good stuff. So please come out. Thank you.
Chief Hughes. Chief of Staff Hughes. Chief of Staff to the President Hughes.
Okay, so I know all of you were extremely disappointed that our career was canceled, but never fear, it's been rescheduled. October 27th, which is a Tuesday.
Write it down.
It's going to be from 12 to 4:30. No one's writing it down? Alright. We'll see when I send out the doodle this time how many people we get to sign up. But anyways, it's going to be on Fairfield Way. So usually we do it like in the back hallway of the student union, and no one really comes. So hopefully this time, middle of the day, we'll be giving out root beer floats, coffee, hot chocolate. So it'll be great. Tell people to show up. And then also, I will resend out the doodle for the open house resource fair. It's this Sunday, and I believe it's 12 to 2. But I will send that out with the exact times. Please represent USG. Come and tell prospective students what we're all about and why they should join. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else like to be recognized for announcements? Yes, Senator Barrett.
Hello, everybody. Okay, well, the Mental Health and Body Image Committee, like section of the Women's Center, we're sponsoring Fat Talk 3 Week, so it's kind of like really bringing out the issues of like, I don't know, pretty much just like body image, like women's body image through like media. Could you do that after? Okay, sorry. So that's from October 19th to the 23rd. October 21st is Love Your Body Day, and we're playing the movie Misrepresentation in the Women's Center. Yeah, so like if you want to go in there, I'm not sure about the time, but I could like post it on the Facebook page. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. We'll be tabling that week, and we'll have like little activities. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Senator Barrett. Anyone else? Senator Ali. I could get.
I'm a moving back, one last thing. The Women's Center is hosting an event called She Should Run, and it's talking about like political engagement and things like that, why it's important. It's gonna be next Wednesday at 3:30, so if you'll sit in it all, it's an honors event, so if you wanna learn more about it, just come talk to me, we'll find out that good stuff.
Thank you, Senator Ali. Sorry, Queen something. Her Majesty, apologies. Anyone else like to be recognized for announcements? Just one thing, how many people are dressed edgy today?
I'm always dressed edgy.
Apparently Vice President Kugler is a little edgy today. All right, we will adjourn at 8:37. Good Senate today, guys.